Okay, so we're continuing our discussion on the NIST cybersecurity framework. We're trying to go through each of these sub-controls and talk about them in just plain English, and maybe trying to help folks understand exactly what we're trying to cover, what the framework is trying to cover. So we are on IDRA, and control number 4 is the first one we're going to talk about. We're actually going to talk about 4, 5, and 6 in all in one video here. Again, it's identify, risk assessment. So let me give you the wording on each of those three controls. Control number 4 is potential business impacts and likelihoods are identified. All right, if you look at control number 5, threats, vulnerabilities, likelihoods, and impacts are used to determine the risk. And then the final number 6 is risk responses are identified and prioritized. So the reason we combine these is because really the heart of the risk analysis section and what we process in our risk manager portion of our software is us taking what is the inherent risk rating and then the residual risk rating. And so what we've done is we've taken the 108 cybersecurity framework controls and we've said what are the risks that relate to each of those. So we've created 108 risks. We've given them a baseline inherent risk rating, and then the scores for our clients on each of those risks would reduce, potentially a good score would reduce the inherent and leave you with a lower residual. So the inherent may have been high, and because of good controls in place that are operating effectively, you may end up with a low risk rating in the residual risk rating. So when we look at 4, one of the documents that, if you come under federal audit, breach audit, that they're going to request from you is a risk mitigation plan. And that risk mitigation plan is basically saying, hey, on all these risks that you've identified and you have given a risk rating to, what's your plan of action? And that document that we produce as that deliverable, that risk mitigation plan, brings together for number 4, it's the potential business impacts and likelihoods are identified. So that is very much about taking each of those risks and saying, hey, what's the impact, what's the likelihood, and giving it kind of a measure to that, high, medium, low. And then when we go on to number 5, the threats, vulnerabilities, likelihoods, and impacts are used to determine a risk. That's where we come in and we look and say, hey, there's an actual risk, overall inherent risk rating to this. And then finally, in number 6, that there's a response, that responses are identified and prioritized in that risk rating, even after we've said, hey, look, you've lowered your residual risk in this area, but maybe only by a little. You can prioritize those and come up with a plan of action based on the prioritization of those risks to say, hey, here's what we need to do and how we're going to begin to whittle away at this and lower these risks. So for our clients, that risk mitigation plan, because it includes all of that into one document, that's really going to be the answer to that one. And hopefully that gives a little better understanding of those 3 controls combined. So we'll continue on the next control.